Hello everyone and welcome back to DIY Fun Ventures. You guys are looking at my new um, experiment I'm working on. I call this the self vacuuming aquarium. I've been working on this for past I want to say 3 months. It's still in testing phases, and if you guys want to see what I'm talking about, if you guys want to see how I made this, I would suggest you guys stick around and watch the whole video to the end with me. I'll explain what I'm working on. All right, so let's check out the video. I got this idea from my aunt. I noticed her browsing small aquariums on Amazon, so I asked if she wanted one. She said she was considering it, but she really didn't want to go through the whole hassle of cleaning the aquarium, doing water changes, gravel vacuuming and such. That gave me an idea to take one of my old aquariums and, using whatever scraps I have at home, attempt to create a low maintenance aquarium. The goal? No water changes, and most importantly, no gravel vacuuming. For this setup, I decided to adapt the undergravel filter concept. Instead of the original air lift system, I'll use a water pump. The pump will move a lot more water, allowing dirt to settle through the sand, get pulled by the pump into the filter area, and then return to the tank after being filtered. At least that's the idea. So I'm going to be experimenting with this little aquarium to see if this idea actually works. And after a lot of testing, and if I see it actually works, then maybe I'll give it to my aunt or I'll make something better. As you can see, I'm starting by measuring the space for the pump. This pump used to be housed in the back compartment of this actual tank, but I'm going to use that compartment as the filtration area and the area to store, to grow the plants and put some rocks for the bacteria to grow on. That will also house the heater, so everything will be back in there. For the pump to actually work, I have to make a compartment, and that's what I'm actually measuring for right now, trying to figure out how I'm gonna create this compartment, this pipe or a box of sorts that's going to be separate from the aquarium water. I'm going to build the enclosure for the pump using acrylic sheets. Acrylic is pretty easy to work with. You just have to score it, and then it just breaks kind of clearly into precise straight pieces. So I measured out the distance that I need. Now I'm kind of marking it, and then of course I will go ahead and score it and then break it into pieces. With the sides cut, I'll now create openings at the bottom of the enclosure. These openings will allow the water to enter the enclosure, and I will also create supports to hold the pump slightly above the bottom. This prevents sand from being accidentally sucked in, while ensuring only the very small particles get through the pump. After the cuts are made, I warm it up with the heat gun. The acrylic breaks really easy, so you want to make sure it's nice and pliable. So, melt it as much as you can, but don't really melt it. You don't want to ruin it, because if you hold the heat too long, all of a sudden you notice the acrylic just quickly changes and starts burning. So after heating it up, I just use pliers to get a nice 90-degree corner, and that's going to be the ledge or the step that's going to hold up the actual pump. And you guys will notice right now I'm about to try to test this. Of course, the pump's supposed to be standing on top of the ledge, not next to it, but we'll get to that later. For now, I'm going to start gluing the sides or I'm going to start gluing those walls together. So let's get to that. To glue the acrylic strips together, I'm using 90-degree angle clamps. This ensures perfectly aligned corners and helps me apply the glue neatly. Once the glue sets, I'll secure the enclosure to the tank using silicone. This step is crucial. I need to ensure no water enters the enclosure from the sides. The water should only flow in through the bottom openings. To attach the enclosure to the side of the aquarium, I'm just using 100% silicone that I purchased from the aquarium store next door. I'm just gonna simply going to apply it on the edges and stick it to the back of the aquarium. After the silicone hardened, I filled the aquarium with water to rinse it and to see how the acrylic looked under the water. The seams turned out pretty decent. Even though this is an experiment, I still want it to look a bit presentable. Next, it's time to prepare the undergravel filter base. I'm using a plastic mesh with detachable feet. They create about a ½ inch gap between the base and the aquarium floor. To prevent the sand from falling into the void beneath the base, I carefully cut the mesh to fit perfectly. Now that the base layer is ready, I attached the feet and I'm going to add an extra layer of mosquito netting to make the holes even finer, ensuring no large sand particles could get through. To create a better seal between the base and aquarium walls, I cut the mosquito netting slightly larger than the base, about 3 mm on all sides. When the base is lowered into the tank, the extra mesh folds upwards, sealing the edges more effectively. With the base securely in place, I added very fine sand. The sand serves two purposes. It acts as an excellent filter and is fine enough to prevent baby shrimp from getting sucked into the pump. Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot to mention this is going to be a shrimp tank. So I want to make sure that even the tiniest shrimp won't get sucked in up into the filter. Once the sand was in, I added water to test the barrier. With the pump running, we can see that the mosquito mesh is effectively stopping the sand from entering the void beneath the filter base. You can actually see how the water is actually trickling down from the top. I am going to add some filter media to actually test and see how good this system is filtering, and we'll move from there. Since I had some extra acrylic pieces, I decided to glue them together to make a new lid for the tank. Breaking off the acrylic often leaves sharp or uneven edges, so I used my grinder from Timu to polish them. Surprisingly, this little grinder worked really well. With the cover ready, it is time to decorate the tank. I forgot to record the planting of the peace lily in a bag, but there it is right here. Hopefully this peace lily will grow and suck all the extra nutrients out of the tank. Since I'm using only sand in this setup, I avoided plants that require root feeding. Instead, I used various types of anubias, which don't really rely on roots for nutrients. I covered the bottom with as many as I had. Once the plants were in, I filled the tank with water and added the new residents, a couple of guppies and some shrimp. To expedite the cycling process and minimize stress on the fish, I used water from one of my established aquariums, the same tank pretty much where these fish and shrimp came from. It's finally feeding time. I'm giving the fish some frozen baby brine shrimp. I know that's a lot of baby brine shrimp floating in there, but the waste is actually crucial to our experiment. I need to see how the filter system works and to see if it actually works as intended. If we look closely, we can see that there is an actual real good water flow in there, and we can see that some of the particles are already being pulled to the ground. In a close-up view, you can see that the particles are moving through the water and gently pulled into the sand. At the first glance, it seems like the system is working. But is it? Fast forward 2 months, and I intentionally tried to get this aquarium as dirty as possible, feeding the fish often and never vacuuming, all while trying to avoid any ammonia spikes. Now the results are clear. Things didn't work as planned. While the water is crystal clear, which is good, the sand has turned into debris trap. Unfortunately, instead of creating a self-cleaning vacuum, I've ended up with a dirt trapping setup. The idea was for the debris to pass through the sand, get caught in a filter, and only require a cleaning of a filter once a month. But the filter is almost as clean as the day I installed it, while the sand is clogged with the debris. As a result, the flow of the water through the sand has degraded significantly. You can clearly see the water inside the enclosure is much lower than the aquarium water level now. This is far from ideal. It's time to rethink the setup. I'm going to remove the fine sand and replace it with small gravel. Gravel that is small enough to keep the shrimp out but large enough to allow the debris to pass through and get trapped in the filter itself. As I remove the decorations and start digging through the sand, you guys will see how much debris has collected in the sand. But like I said, nothing made it to the filter. So I think this was a good decision to start this all over, and hopefully this new setup with the gravel would actually work better. Now with our fish back and aquarium full of dirty water, I just reused the old water that I had in the aquarium, just to make sure the aquarium water is a bit dirty and cloudy, so we could actually see how the filter is working. If we look at this closely, we'll notice that the water is actually moving much freer. I mean, you guys probably wouldn't notice the difference, but since I've been staring at this aquarium for past 2 months, I noticed that the water is moving much faster and freer. You can clearly see now the debris is quickly getting sucked into the gravel. And honestly, I'm kind of worried that this might be a bit too fast for the baby shrimp. So I guess the time will show. Look at the bottom. You can see clearly tiny particles going through, moving in that void through that water, and they're getting sucked into the pump, and then they're getting pushed into the filter area, of course, and they get filtered out. I tried to record a time lapse so we could actually see the process and how quick the aquarium water gets filtered out, and but unfortunately the battery died because I forgot to plug in the phone into the charger. Apparently the battery died when I was recording the time lapse, so we didn't see how clear it got, but here we are. This is about 2 hours in, and this is so much cleaner and better than it was with the just fine sand. This is so nice. Alright, well, we'll just wait and see how this works. So far, here we are 2 weeks later. The water is crystal clear, and both fish and the shrimp seem happy. The shrimp are especially active, and you can see how they've been slowly cleaning the tank. While the plants are still covered in algae, there is notably less of it now. This is thanks to the shrimp, which are gradually eating the algae and helping to maintain aquarium balance. Here is a close-up of the bottom of the tank. You can see small particles floating through the water and being drawn toward the pump. This shows the system is finally working more effectively with this gravel setup. And here you can see the actual filter working. The filter has changed color and it has actually collected some debris. So this is pretty exciting. It seems like things are working as I wanted them to work. So I'll make another video, you guys, in 2 months to let you guys know how things are moving along. Until then, Please go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to see more videos like this. Have a good day and have fun